Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the Startup Canada Women Entrepreneur Webinar Series with today's session on Startup Becoming Scale-Ups. So I am Maria Ponte, a Program and Business Manager of Startup Canada, and we are delighted to present the winner of the 2019 Startup Canada Newcomer Women Entrepreneur of the Year, Miryam Lazarte. Starting a company is definitely not easy, and growing a company, it's even harder. So for any startup, it is a challenge to expand into international markets. In this webinar, where Miryam Lazarte will arm you with information about various programs and give you the confidence to find the support you need to take your company global. Miryam is the founder of LatAm Startups, a Toronto-based accelerator that brings startups from Latin America to Canada and scales them globally. She's passionate about building stronger economic ties between Canada and Latin America, and often overlooked market of 800 million consumers. Miryam is member of the program advisory community for business administration, entrepreneurship, and small business at Seneca College, and works closely with both Canadians and Latin American angels in pursuit of cross-border investment opportunities. This program, the Women Entrepreneur Program, is designed to help women entrepreneurs to start and scale their businesses. As a result of the current situation and its severe impact on our community of entrepreneurs, we have pivoted our programming to respond to the current challenges, as all of the organizations are doing right now. In the session, Miryam will address valuable resources and programs to help you to take your organization to the next level. Welcome everyone again, and we encourage asking questions specific to the situations that you're facing right now, and using these experts as you try to navigate through these times. Thank you so much. I will pass things over Miryam Lazarte right now. Miryam, over you. Welcome to the WEWebinar series. It's a pleasure to have you joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for the invitation. I think these webinars are very relevant for people, especially at this moment, as you mentioned, when many people are trying to look at opportunities to pivot or reach out other markets. In particular, it has been difficult, and it will be difficult for many people to think in strategies to expand. So that's why, I think today we can discuss a little bit how we can do that and how we can help businesses. So as Maria said, my name is Miryam Lazarte. I'm the CEO of LatAm Startups, and I'd like to, again, thank Canada for the opportunity to present this webinar. So today I'm going to speak about how some companies can evaluate the strategies to scale up. Our community is all about startups and scale-ups. We deal in daily basis with international tech companies entering to Canada. We do have some programs created for them, but we also have some Canadian companies trying to enter to international markets. And so I'm going to share today what we have identified as the main problems for those companies in order to enter to international markets, and how you can start a quick expansion. So here's my presentation. Hopefully everyone is able to see it. Yes, start a company is certainly not an easy process. You have to put so much effort to find out the right market, the right segment, the right customer. You're working in your branding, website, and in the message, and in every single detail you need to do in order to launch a business. When you launch, you have two main scenarios. So you realize you need more time to fix things and provide better service or products. This happens a lot with many companies that, they just launch and they figure out, oh my goodness, I'm just not super ready for this at this point. Or you realize that you need to improve, but so far you can keep working and you are getting either first users or first customers. So for those, any type of scenarios, no company does it right the first time, but many companies don't consider that. Besides, launching was a very difficult process. This will be one step from many you need to take in order to grow your business and then start looking for international customers. Okay, going into why business fail. I don't know, probably many of you are familiar with this particular graphic here that is from CB Insights, and this graphic was shared years ago, and business tend to tell, as you could see, because there is not a market need, and meaning that perhaps the person creating the company has not do the right due diligence. So far has been working over assumptions instead of facts. How do you resolve that? Sometimes companies have just tried locally, and they are in very mature markets as Canada, where your competitive advantage is limited. You have more competitors, or the market certainly just doesn't meet what you are offering. Companies may close business with a big disappointment until they find out that this is not what the market needs. But maybe you haven't tried your product or service in other markets where perhaps is actually needed. Perhaps looking at emerging markets will be an alternative. So many times when we see, there is no market need, many companies just assume the first time this was, locally nobody really wanted to buy it. But many people don't try to see, a second market, because they just saw, it didn't work here. Why I will try a second market? So sometimes that's the answer for many of the startups that work with us, is that try a second market, because not necessarily you need to close right now. You see that other factors that are also very important, like run out of cash, or having not the right team. This is a very complicated one, I will say. Many times we have seen companies failing because they don't have the right team. The other facts are also important, but I will say, the three first ones are really important, even in expansion, or when you are scaling up, or when you are trying to reach out other markets. This is really important. And the run out of cash, I'll be talking a little bit about that in the next slides. But this one is also a poor strategy, or sometimes, people are just putting a lot of time and money in things that they shouldn't do. But okay, I'm going to go for the next one, which involves more like what is the market validation part. So being said this, before you jump in to see other markets, try to do your due diligence and explore options that will help you to figure out which market will be better to start market entry strategy. So many of you may think I need to travel to other country under the current conditions. How we are going to do that, and who will do that actually? Well, one of the big advantages that Canada and cities like Toronto has is that we have very diverse community, and we have people from all over the world in this city in particular, for example, in Toronto. So you can actually go to different communities representing other countries, and start speaking with people from those other countries or the country you would like to reach. Share your idea, share your assumptions, and that will be your first step to know if you are doing a good work, or the work that you want to do may do something in that particular market. Now, when you do this, you must consider that this first step is just one of many in the market validation. So you need to reach out more people directly in that market to start expanding. So how do you do that? Rely, for example, in the Trade Commissioner Office, in organizations like us, or many other institutions like Chamber of Commerce and others that can connect you with those markets. Once you have validated your assumptions, then the next step will be to create a marketing strategy or a sales strategy to start expanding. I've seen many times this, when I mention Trade Commissioner Office, sometimes people are like, or they think this is too difficult to get, or it's not going to be effective, the service that they are providing. Or sometimes many people don't even know about the Trade Commissioner service. But trade commissioners have been very effective for our network and for the people that work, with the startups that we work. It's also relevant to mention that as Canada has trade commissioners and they have wonderful service, other countries, they have also trade commissioners. And sometimes those trade commissioners are located in your main cities. So it may be Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. You get, trade commissioners from the other countries that also can help you in that particular strategy. So I see the chat moving on. So I'm not sure if there is some questions there before I continue with my presentation. But if anyone wants to, ask any questions, you can, just put it in the chat and I'll be happy to jump up in the question. But yes, so what I mean to say with this is that for now, it's certainly you have limitations to start growing in other countries, but it's not like doors are totally closed. You still have a lot of community in your own cities, and you still have a lot of opportunities to reach out people that can help you to figure out, if what you are doing can work in other country, and start doing that strategy is very important. I cannot emphasize that as much as I'm doing right now.
Miryam, sorry,
Yes.
Miryam, we have a question in the chat. So somebody's asking, a crucial aspect of scaling up a business internationally is to understand your potential customers' business culture. How can Canadian businesses approach this due diligence effectively?
Yes, actually, that's a really good question. It's part of 2 slides that I have, next coming up. So I will answer that in those slides. And if it's still the question there, I can go deep into the answer. But it's coming up. So thank you for asking the question. So for this slide that is talking about connections, what if there are people right now in the audience that is not from Canada? I want to touch base just a little bit on those people that maybe from the country, because I know that when we share, webinars or something, sometimes people are not necessarily from here, and they are trying to do the opposite. They are trying to do the same strategy, same rules apply. For those of you in the audience that are looking for a market to launch or to expand, and you look first locally for a person or institution, and then can help you with international connections in your home city, and they try to validate your assumptions. This is a lot of work, I know, but it's good time spent. You can waste a lot of money and time trying to fly or invest in marketing or other strategies just based in assumptions. So don't validate with family and friends. This is one of the first advice that we always do. Don't validate with family and friends. They love you, and your idea and your plans are always good and excellent for them. So always try to go outside of your network and trying to, to connect with those others. So this is the slide about business cultural difference. It was exactly the question that probably the person was asking. So exactly what he was mentioning or she was mentioning, entering to a new market or entering into a marketing and sales strategy, you're thinking about a different monster. We're talking a different monster here. This is one of the most critical steps for your company while entering into other markets. So assumptions also play a role here, a bad role. So what works in your market usually doesn't work in others. Think about the difference to do, for example, marketing between Canada and the US. This difference may feel insignificant sometimes, but really have a big consequence for your company if you don't learn to identify what is important, which is the business cultural difference. Just talking between Canada and the USA, again, as an example, you could see a big difference in approaching clients while you are targeting West Coast or East Coast, for instance. I've been lucky enough to have lived in Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. And I was able to see the difference in the way people work and even communicate. So if your marketing strategy works locally, don't assume that this is going to be a copy-paste in your strategy. Again, you can talk with people from other markets. You can reach out and ask questions about what is the best way to communicate with potential customers and what is the best strategy. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that strategy in particular. So here we will. This is another step. What people tell you about their ways to communicate and do business may seem insane to you sometimes. So I like to be a little bit straight here, and the fact that it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean that things must be working in your way, you know, necessary. Many people I've seen fail in the strategy because they are unable to accept the fact things are different in other countries. And somebody knows better than them or how to reach out customers in a particular country. So sometimes I get this type of quotes or people saying, I know my sector, this can be that different from another market, you know, from another country. People saying, for example, the type of client I'm looking for is quite the same as in my local market, why I should communicate different. Or people saying, this is insane, I do things in my way and it has worked so far, so why I will change, you know? So those are kind of first reactions sometimes when people are trying to enter to another market and realize that the strategy must be different. So that first rejection to what is different in a strategy you may have planned may cause a failure or a delay in being successful in a market entry strategy. So I've seen startups, for example, blaming other people or say certain conditions instead to look of what they didn't do right. So egos play a role here. So in the question about, you know, a business cultural difference, again, I will go back to what is the network that you can build locally. There are international people that can help you to validate your assumptions. That will be the best strategy you can do. Talk with others. And, you know, sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes people don't want to share what they want to do. Sometimes people think, you know, somebody else is going to copy what they are going to do in that strategy and all that. That seems, you know, not the case always. Here in Toronto, what I've seen, people are usually very open to share, you know, what they want to do and to look for advice. But especially in you know, especially newcomers tend to be a little bit more thinking for themselves, you know, that somebody else is going to do the strategy or somebody else is going to try to copy. But, you know, talking with other people will save you a lot of money and time in the strategy. That's the main thing. So I don't know if there is any other questions there, or shall I continue with the next section?
Please continue. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. So, okay. So some examples I like to, I just like to mention, I'll do an example about a Canadian company entering emerging markets and international company entering Canada. So what they have done right or what they have done wrong that we identify in some point. One is a personal experience and the other is more like my experience related with LatAm and other companies. So the first example I would like to mention is a technology company that is based here in Canada. We wouldn't mention exactly where, but it's a Canadian company that had, let's say, enough experience in the country and so many other countries around the world. 25 years, you know, working the technology they were doing. The first time they tried to enter a market, a country in Latin America. And the country was selected just because one of the directors was original from that country, which is a good strategy. This company successfully entered that first country and started sell service to big corporations. It was a good time and money invested, I will say. Since the experience was good, they try a second country in the same region. You may think the marketing strategy will work, and it didn't. The person assigned, which was the same guy basically that did the enter to the first country, was a little bit obsessed with that strategy, that the strategy should work as same as in his home country. And he thought, you know, he threw fist, he got upset many times. He blamed others for things didn't go his way, until the company almost lost $1 million contract. And then, you know, when the company finally reacted and decided that the way they were handling the strategy and communication was not correct, so they figured out, you know, a new strategy, and they kept working for a while with that second country with different type of people. So the first guy, you know, when he entered to the first country, he couldn't do it in his way. He couldn't just copy and paste. Besides, we are talking about neighbor countries, you know, that are connected. Same thing that may happen in Canada and the USA. And, you know, he thought, well, this will work, and it didn't work. And it cost a lot of time, and I will say part of that money to the company to develop a new strategy after different failures in trying the same strategy they were trying at the first place. So that first lesson, relying locals, is to rely on locals to advise if things are going to work in your way or not. You know, and in that second country that they tried to reach out, there were people in there that they were advising constantly the company that what they were doing wouldn't work. They didn't want to listen. They just were relying on this director that, you know, he did it right the first time. And it was a hard lesson, but after that, you know, they continue growing in particular in Latin America, in different countries, relying in locals after and after and after. So they are doing well today. So for international companies coming to North America, the case is not that much different. Most of the time, we have some situations around that the company is well known in their country, and they assume people in North America will recognize the work done. And yes, people have some recognition, you know, but this is a new country, new market, and the attitude is more like, show me what you can do here. Usually these startups hate that. It seems like they have to work everything or to restart again to prove over and over they are capable to do what they said that they are capable to do. So the second part is related with the type of services or products that they want to bring to a mature market. So people in North America, Europe, and others type of markets similar to these ones tend to be more selective, and coming from an emerging market, the solutions sometimes tend to be too general, too wide. So when they plan their marketing strategy, the message seems to be too blurry, and sometimes people may feel dizzy, you know, listening of the many things you can do or the many things that can work for this customer. So again, there is a cultural difference to pass. Once you pass that wall, then you will be probably in the right track. Once you realize, you know, that you need to tackle first that business cultural difference, then you are good most of the time. So you have many chances to success in other markets. Your opportunity rely on do validation process, so you don't work with assumptions. Adaptation is important. How fast can you understand and absorb, you know, the new business cultural difference that you're facing? And how flexible could you be in listening and work new strategies? So important here, these three aspects. when you are scaling up a product or service, when you are expanding internationally. What we deal more is with technology companies, but really applies to any type of business and services. Products and services in general. There are, of course, business that they are not looking to expand or anything like that. They are pretty much local, but those that want to expand, the measure of success, or the way that you success, it depends on validation, adaptation, and flexibility. So that will be your 3 key components for what is our experience. So finally, because I do this type of information usually quick. You may feel that I'm proposing here is a little bit complex. Why to bother, or why to do this? Why to validate assumptions and try to adapt and all these things? There are different reasons I can give you, because you can target new customers and grow even more your company. If your goal just stay local, because it's safe, well, I cannot fight against that, but crises and changes in the economy can affect deeply your local market. This is part of what people usually say, don't put all your eggs in just one basket. So it's important, and I think that kind of, saying is even more relevant today under the crisis we are living and under the conditions we are going to be living for the next year or 2. So one of the things is just try to diversify and try to see other markets. You never know what is going to happen locally. You never know what is going to happen with your neighbor. Canada depends a lot on the US, and sometimes that's not really good for all companies. I think part of diversifying your portfolio or your services and your clients will help you to achieve better results and be prepared for crisis that always come at some point. The second thing is when you work with other countries and cultures, you can enrich your product or service. Improvement and some other modifications can actually help you to realize your potential. You could help to reach, that could help actually to reach even more customers in your local market. So when you actually reach out other countries, you're talking with other clients, sometimes they give you ideas of how to improve or how to modify your service or your product that you can actually apply to the local customers, if that makes sense for the company, of course. I'm talking here in general, but sometimes that actually help you to keep innovating in the market and keep competitive in the market. There is a lot of competition outside. A lot of companies are trying to reach out customers locally and internationally. So the more that you diversify again your portfolio, the better. And the third point is you're actually helping your country by exporting or by expanding to other markets. You're actually helping the economy. At the same time, you're helping your company. So think about the good that you can do to other country and your own country. So by selling more outside, you are helping that other economy too. Sometimes you need to hire people there, or you need to put a second subsidiary or something like that. But also you are getting exports in your own company. So that's always good. So what I want to say to all of you is that, in my opinion, procrastination and fear are your worst enemies, always. And many people don't want to do this because they fear failure, because they are just fear other cultures, or they are just having too many assumptions again, no facts in between, or they just want to do it later. They feel like it's never a good time to do a strategy of expanding your company. So those are the thoughts I wanted to put together for this specific presentation to have your company from one startup to scale up other countries. So I'll be happy to take any questions or comments over the presentation at this point.
Thank you, Miryam, so much for all these wonderful insights. And one of our participants asks if it's possible to start just with an idea. And to explain this question, of course, accelerators such as LatAm Startups played a decisive role in supporting businesses through their expansion journey. In this case, LatAm Startups, does your programs apply to pre-revenue enterprises, or at which stage do companies apply to participate in your programs?
Sure. So usually we take companies that already have some revenue. We have taken in the past, and currently under the soft landing program, we are working with some companies that are pre-revenue. But those are cases that we try to evaluate very, very carefully because, you know, being in Toronto and being in an organization like us, you know, we are a nonprofit organization, so we don't take equity over companies. So we try to work with per fee. And sometimes fees when the company is in the ideation process can be a little bit high. So it's different when they are already in the road, and our expertise usually is to pivot in ideas and solutions. So being said that, we have been exploring some partnerships specific with a startup bill where we want to actually launch pretty soon a program for companies that are, or people that are working in ideation. There is also a tool that is currently in our website. It's still kind of hidden. We are going to put it live this week. But we have a tool in our website that can help some companies and some people that are in the ideation phase. That it currently will help, under the situation of COVID-19. So we have a tool that is called Business Pivoting Plan. Then basically ask you questions based on the link canvas structure and ask you questions about how was your idea before COVID-19 and how compares with what you want to execute now after COVID-19 and during the pandemic. So that specific tool can help you to realize if this is something worth it. There is a second tool also in that website that I can share with you guys also. That is called is basically a business plan writer, and our idea with that to launch that is that in particular those that are pivoting business plans or pivoting ideas right now because of COVID-19, they want to create a new business plan and start working in your assumptions and going into facts in order to grow. Then we will be selecting the best 10 business plans and give us a very small grant to start with the company. But it's something that we have been doing as work in progress, as the pandemic was kind of coming up, and we were working with a bootcamp program. The same time right now we're working in soft landing program. So I apologize for the long answer, but there is those two tools right now available, and hopefully in the future this year we're launching with a startup build that other program.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Miryam, for sharing this amazing tool with us, and I'm sure all of our audience will be very interested in using those tools. Mm-hmm. Question is a personal question from me to you, but I'm sure that all of the audience will be very interested in the answer. So having you experienced various startup ecosystems, you have gone to Chile startup, Mexico startup, and having experienced these entrepreneurship ecosystems across the world, how do you think Canadian ecosystem stands out, and how can entrepreneurs leverage those advantages to their own benefit to scale up their businesses?
Yeah, Canada has an amazing ecosystem. Every day I feel so proud, to be here, part of the ecosystem, and to be another Canadian. Besides, I'm a proud Colombian too, same as you, Maria, I guess. So I mean, Canada has a lot of advantages. Many people don't know we are living in the second largest tech corridor in the world after Silicon Valley. Many people don't know we have the largest innovation center in the world, like Mars Discovery is through the Urban, Innovation Center. Many people don't know we have, the largest IoT center in the world in Waterloo, also in square meters. I mean, there is so many advantages. You guys, we here in Canada, we have so many components that help startups to grow fast and assimilate the ecosystem. I would say the most critical advantage that people have here in Canada is that if something really fails or a company fails, it's not because of the lack of support of the ecosystem. It's because of bad due diligence, or the facts that I showed in the third slide. That the product is not needed. I mean, it has to be not needed anywhere in the world. Like, there is always opportunities, but the ecosystem here is providing so much mentorship, investment, grants, a lot of things. And sometimes for newcomers, specific newcomers like us, the companies that are coming here, it's a little bit overwhelming to know how much this ecosystem have, and how to use those tools. Now, for Canadian companies, there is always, I will say a question mark where to start. There are so many incubators, so many accelerators, so many programs, so much help. Sometimes people cannot figure out where to start. So, there are good organizations like Startup Canada or Startup here Toronto, or so many other grassroots organizations that can help to figure out where to start. But this ecosystem is amazing compared with many others.
Thank you. Thank you for your for that answer, Miryam. So we right now we have another question from one of our attendees. What is the estimate time for the whole process of a startup visa?
Okay, that question I get a lot.
I'm sure.
Well, it depends on the organization that you are with. There are different designated organizations with the startup visa program. Unfortunately, I will have to say that not many of the organizations actually work the program. Some of them just are part of the designation because they can use it at some point. But those that we are actively, using a startup visa program, we have different ways to accommodate the startups into that program. In particular, for LatAm Startups, we have a process. So we have first 2 weeks validation bootcamp that we have to, all companies have to enter. And I cannot tell you how many times I have companies saying, no, but I'm bigger than the others, are better than the others. I already have something that is valuable for this market. We don't care. Everyone pass through bootcamp program because we really want to make sure that what they are bringing into the country is something that is going to work. So that's the first phase. That's 2 weeks. And then there is a 3 months market entry in which we have, for example, some companies right now in that phase. So in that phase, what we work with the companies is in completing the business plan that is mandatory to present for a startup visa program, and then launch a corporation and make sure they have a strategy in place for marketing and sales, and they have they are going to be entering in the right structure. So it takes a while. I know many people say, but 3 months? Yes, 3 months, because usually in the month and a half, people are just, having, this anxiety about what I have done this, it comes with the existential crisis in a month and a half, usually. So 3 months is good. And then, companies are eligible once they finish soft landing program to present to the board of directors of LatAm their solution, and the board of directors will decide whether or not this company is a good fit for a startup visa program. which is an acceleration program that is for 4 months and monitoring for 1 year. So I don't take decision over who gets into the Startup Visa program, because me and my dear colleagues, we work very close with the companies, and we are partial, so we want to receive all of them. But the board of directors are more like impartial people, so they will see that in a very logical way, who is really eligible and who the government will accept, and then we accept them. Now, from there to actually get a permanent residence, it depends case by case. We have one startup that received permanent residence in 2.5 months after presenting documents. So that was extremely fast. But we have seen cases of 18 months, 6 months to 8 months, seems to be more the normal. So that's quite the process.
Great. And how many persons from the same organization can apply to the startup visa? Is there a maximum number of staff?
Yeah, it's a maximum of 5 co-founders that own at least 10% of the company that can apply for the startup visa. So they apply, their families are also part of the startup visa. Their closest relatives, like wife and kids, and no their parents or something like that. But yes, up to 5 co-founders.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Miryam. We have other specific questions about your program. I will be happy to connect you with our participants. But for now, we're running out of time. So thank you so much, Miryam, for your time, for sharing these amazing insights to our amazing audience. Thank you for joining us on the Women Entrepreneurs webinar series today. We hope you got valuable insights on how to leverage these resources and networks to scale up your company. Please stay tuned for our next webinar, Business Communications in Times of Crisis, with Priya Chopra, founder and president of One Milk, Two Sugars, this Thursday, April 16. Please register on startupcan.ca. I will share the link in shortly. This webinar series will be recorded and uploaded to the webinar to the Startup Canada website under the Women Entrepreneurs Program section. Please register now to the Startup Canada Social Impact Program as well, in partnership with the Economic and Social Development Canada's Investment Readiness Program. I will share the link as well. Please join us to stay tuned in our website to get the latest updates about these programs, and please sign in onto our email newsletter in the upper right part of our homepage. So thank you everybody. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Miryam, for joining us today, and looking forward to see you all next webinar on Thursday. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me here.